I've been waiting for this one for a while now, nerds. I'm your boy Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots.
Sword sheath, it's the return of the blade and slice shade, getting paid until my silhouette fades.
Where do I even begin with this one? I don't need to sit here and explain to you why the N64 is one of my favorite game systems of all time, but I'm a little turned, so I'm gonna do it anyways. Dude, normally I start some of these videos off with like some history, some backstory, but I can't without gushing about how many great games were on this console. Mario 64 defining 3D games forever, Ocarina of Time being literally the quintessential adventure game for almost 2 decades, Rareware literally releasing classic after classic. The original Smash, Mario Kart 64 still ruining friendships, Star Fox 64 being the last good one, Turok, Mario Party destroying palms. So many good games, and it's more than just the games. It marked a new beginning for Nintendo. It laid so much of the foundation for 3D games forever. But even outside of that, it was the first real risk for Nintendo. You see, 1996 was an interesting time for gaming. CD technology was now the norm for game consoles, and yet Nintendo chose to stick with traditional cartridges. Sure, the save and load times were instant, but cartridges couldn't hold as much information as CDs, and that's why the soundtracks for N64 games sounded like cheap MIDIs. Plus, the controller was weird. That being said, the PlayStation's first controllers and the Sega Saturn controllers didn't have analog sticks, so this weird trident thing made sense at the time. But it added to the system's quirks. It was different, but it was still very much Nintendo. The limitations of the console were what forced so much innovation. A trait Nintendo is very proud of. Sometimes it works for their favor, like it did here, and others, well...
Virtual Boy, see it now in 3D.
What's interesting is one of the reasons Nintendo opted for cartridges instead of CDs was because of the bad taste left in Nintendo's mouth from previous attempts at making a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo. What's funny is these negotiations were held with Sony of all companies. After the project originally dubbed the PlayStation, 2 words, was scrapped, Sony would move on to develop their own console. This would also mark the first time Nintendo was not a market leader. The PlayStation would ultimately outsell the N64, and this trend would get even worse for Nintendo with the following generation's GameCube. However, the N64 was an example of everything that made Nintendo, Nintendo. It set a lot of trends the rest of the industry would follow. It was the first console to have a rumble pack, which is now a mainstay of almost all controllers. It was the first mainstream console to have 4 controller ports. I'm not counting the Atari 5200. The N64 also had an interesting add-on called the 64DD. This was ultimately going to be what most N64 games would be released on. It had online capabilities and even had expansions for existing games. Did it do well? Nope. The DD's constant delays and ultimately poor sales are what led to many games getting standard releases. However, it's also what inspired many features in later games. Majora's Mask was initially supposed to be a DD expansion for Ocarina of Time with real-time clock systems. The real-time clock also inspired Animal Crossing on the GameCube. Hell, Japan also saw Animal Crossing on the N64 before we even would get it in the States. The reason so many of us hold the N64 so close though is the memories we've made playing with each other, even if it wasn't back in the day. To this day, it's still so fun to bust out Mario Party 2 or Mario Kart 64. To crack open a case of beer and just play all night. I remember showing one of my best friends Zelda for the first time on the N64. Mario 64 was the first video game I can honestly say I remember playing. What Nintendo has always been good at doing is creating experiences that are fun no matter how old you get. And the N64 was a revolutionary example of this. Whether you're 13 or you're 30, the N64 is always going to hold a special place in our hearts. So what do you think? Were you a PlayStation or an N64 kid growing up? Or were you a Sega Saturn kid? If you were, congrats, you were the weird one. What are some of your favorite N64 games? And what are some of your best memories from playing games like Mario Kart 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario Party, Perfect Dark? God, so many good games for this system. God, I can't even. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to buy our t-shirts. Link in the description. If you liked our video, don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. I'm your boy Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots.